Hello, everyone. This is Caroline, and today is April 24th, 2011. Welcome to this webcast. If this is the first time you listen to this webcast, I recommend that you go back to the first one that we did in January of 2011, because this is kind of a series. We've been following a bit of a program here. The theme continues on. The theme being the ascension of the planet, ascension of the individual, ascension of humanity. But before we get started with today's webcast, just a quick announcement as always. For those who are new or who have missed the Mastering the Human Mind class, I highly recommend that you look into this class. It is extremely powerful. It is not like just any other class because it is experiential, meaning you understand the material. You assimilate the material on a cellular level in an experiential manner, and it is extremely powerful if you are interested in speeding up your awakening and to truly transcend and master this human condition. This is the course for you. Mastering the Human Mind can be found online on the website omniumuniverse.com. On the university page. In fact, all classes are on the university page. If you're also looking for some of the very, very powerful clearing sessions, please go to the Healing Center. We have done recently, and even the last year or so, a very, very powerful clearing sessions, reprogramming session. Look under the cellular reprogramming series, sessions on the DNA, on the, of course, awakening, ascension, mastering the human condition in many different ways, different angles. Very, very powerful stuff. So I urge you to look into these classes on our website. And if you're looking for anything in particular, just type in the topic in the search box on any page of the website, and it will take you right to that link. And for those who are speaking a foreign language, look under languages. If you have friends or family who are French speaking or Dutch, we have now classes and sessions in those languages. So I think they would appreciate listening to this information in their own language. All right, so moving right along. Today we will continue where we left off last time, very briefly talking about the ascension, and then we will, see if we can answer a few questions today, and then we will do a healing circle, which is another exquisite healing clearing session. We're gonna do that in another 30 minutes or so. So in the meantime, I'm just going to jump right ahead into the topic of the day, which is the ascension. Why the ascension? Because we're ascending, whether we are aware of it, whether we have been preparing for it, whether we feel it or not. This is the time of in Earth's history that the current frequency range that exists on the Earth are going to be basically replaced by new ones. It is a graduation, so to speak, from a human condition that has existed for a very, very, very long time, more precisely about 210,000 years. And so this is the time, in fact, this is the year for the most drastic feeling in this ascension process. So I hope you have been doing a lot of work to prepare for this time. If you have not, it's never too late. And of course, there is good news, and there are ways for anyone on this awakening program to jump right in at any stage wherever you may be. So the earth is ascending, the humanity is ascending, you are ascending one way or another. And so we talked since January about the different stages of ascension, because again, for those who are just joining in here for the first time, people use this term in many different ways to mean different things. And so I have clarified as best I could the meaning and the process of ascension, how it works on the different levels and in the various stages of this ascension. So we talked about first the initial energetic form of ascension that then moves into the mind channels type of ascension, meaning affecting the mind, the frequencies of the mind and the level of consciousness. And then finally, it is the physical, actual physical ascension that takes place. And we talked about last time that the physical ascension does not necessarily mean that everyone on the planet just kind of dissolves and disappears or transitions in the same way. That is not how it works. The ascension can take place in various forms, even on a physical level. So we talked briefly last time about ascending in a physical way this year, especially beginning the month of November, until about the following March of 2012, is a big window where it's almost like where the new Earth grid locks into position, meaning it's kind of like all the doorways will open up at the same time. And for those who have been studying with me and reading the books and understanding this material, you understand, you know that there is a very complicated, intricate grid system that surrounds the Earth. And this grid system had been corrupt and dismantled and blocked for all these years. And so the doorways, so to speak, there are different grid systems within the Earth grid. One of which is the transport grid system. It's kind of like a subway system, like a highway system. And this particular system has been blocked off. It's not the only one, but since we're talking about the ascension, mostly, then this is the most relevant one. So you can imagine that there is from the Earth all the way connecting you to the planetary system and the center of the galaxy and beyond, of course, a very specific, intricate, very sophisticated highway system. And it has been blocked off. We're not getting into those details as to why and how in this webcast, that's for sure. But you can read about it again in the book, The Divine Plan, and also in the classes we talk about this. But today, the point of this, or the relevance of this, is that this year, the new Earth grid is going to move or shift the actual physical positioning of the Earth and the Earth axis, so that all of these highways, so to speak, line up properly again, and the pathways are open again. In fact, the way this happens are mostly, not only, but mostly through geophysical events. If you notice, or if you had followed the geophysical events that have been happening the last few years, and certainly this year, the geophysical events have been shifting the actual axis of the planet, shifting its inclination, and shifting, of course, on the surface, we see the shifting of the actual islands and the actual countries, even by inches or by centimeters. It is a huge thing that affects many, many things. The fact that the axis has shifted even 5 centimeters or an island has moved 2.5 meters, what have you, on the surface is extremely significant. And in fact, that is how, again, I'm simplifying here, one of the ways by which the planet changes its physical positioning. And of course, here we see it as inches and meters, but in the context of the bigger picture, in the context of the galactic arrangement, it is a huge repositioning. And this repositioning is also due to the fact that there is a new Earth grid around the planet that is moving it, that is shifting it into this new position. So this new position is exactly what we are needing, because this new position is what is going to allow the highway system to reopen, basically. And so, of course, part of the grid is also another system, that is the communication system, and the time and space continuum and network pathway system as well. So it is not just the transport grid system that is shifting, everything is shifting. But the one we are going to talk about today is the transport grid system, or the aspect of the new Earth grid that has to do with physical transport. So we are here at this point, we have talked about a physical ascension, whereby we either, the first option would be to in fact stay in your physical form, in this physical body. Basically, you just continue on living. And as this shift continues to happen, and more drastically after the month of November, this physical body is going to then suddenly shift into this new transition. And as the doors, the pathways open up so powerfully, then it's almost like, you suddenly open up all the doors in your house at the same time, and you have this huge amount of light, huge amount of information, huge amounts of downloads, so to speak, a huge amount of new higher frequencies that will become available very suddenly. So you better be prepared. You have to be quite strong in the sense of knowing how to refocus your energy, your connection, because this drastic shift is going to be quite strong, quite turbulent in some sense, but of course you will be able to take it if you have been doing all this work. So this is one option and one result of this reopening of the pathways. And the second option is that some of people we know are going to take advantage of this timing to exit this current physical form and jump on the highway and move to a transition to another place. And so because of their particular karmic agenda, this particular timing is going to allow them to basically bypass thousands, if not hundreds, if not thousands of years of reincarnation to complete their karmic cycle. So they're going to take advantage of this sudden opening of highways to basically speed up their own karmic cycle and get on to another higher frequency. And one way would be to take advantage of this opening and head to their original home, because the planet will be realigned very perfectly with other planets and the rest of the galaxy, and of course beyond, to the center of the universe. Or another option would be to transition from this physical body, but still to remain within the earth plane, because you want to, or they want to, come back in another form. And they are taking advantage also of this, the reopening of the pathways, because it's a very fast, very easy way to exit and return into a new form. So you can see that this is a very unique timing on the earth. And so the idea is that many of you have come at this particular time to take advantage of this reopening, because this reopening is going to allow you to basically go back straight to your original shape and your original home in a much, much faster, smoother, effortless way. So before I continue, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, okay, well, what is the mechanism? Like, how do we actually transition? So for those who decide to stay, of course, there's nothing will happen other than they will have to really have to kind of basically hold on, because it's kind of like a very powerful wind coming, and they have to really, really focus on holding on with their connection and their solidly with their new kind of reconfiguration to remain very how should I say, grounded and powerfully connected. But for those who are choosing to exit at this time, I wanted to say that it's very important for us to readdress the transition process, because on the earth we are so bombarded, we are really we inherit belief systems that exist before us. And so if you are a human alive and you know of someone that transitions, the first thing or the first thought that you have is a negative thought, meaning not everyone, of course, but most people, is that, oh, poor guy or poor woman or whatever, she passed on, or it's a very sad, tragic event, of course, for the family, especially for the family and those who are left behind. So the feeling, the idea, the emotion, the feelings, and the belief systems around transition are very negative on the earth. And I have to say that this really, truly needs to be addressed, because what's happening is that we are not assisting the ascension process. We are holding it back. We are putting into the collective consciousness feelings, emotions, and thoughts that are negative about a process that is absolutely natural. Not only is it natural, but it's quite exquisite. It's quite a beautiful process. Imagine that you are coming as this immaculate, beautiful, pure form of light, and you choose to take on the human form for a few years, 30 years, 50 years, 80 years, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And then you return to this magnificent, brilliant, pure form of light, even more expanded, even more intelligent, even more evolved, so to speak. And so it is just a magnificent process. But looking at it from this very, very limited human perspective, we label it one way or another that's extremely negative, and we tarnish it with these very low vibration belief systems. And that really needs to change, because you are then pouring into your immediate environment and the collective consciousness negative connotation about something that is purely divine, purely exquisite, and that is part of the creation process. And so that is why I want to make sure that if you catch yourself having those feelings, of course there is an element of course, of sadness when somebody we know, somebody we love leaves us. But I mean, because if we're used to sharing our physical life with them, of course, there's that going on. So I'm not diminishing that experience. However, we need to quickly put it in perspective and focus on that being how they are feeling, not how we are feeling as we are being left behind. In fact, if you are able to tune into the frequency, the energy of those that are transitioning, you will see, you will feel, you will know that there is a tremendous amount of freedom, liberation, joy. It's a really exquisite experience that happens at that time. And so, I mean, especially after the transition. The actual transition is a bit more tricky. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And so if you were to continuously pour these negative emotions and feelings around that consciousness that just left and in fact is feeling fantastic on the other side, then you are keeping in the collective consciousness all of this heavy negative stuff. And so that is the reason why. Make sure that you examine your own belief system and your own perspective on the subject. And for those who have had near-death experiences or have read things about near-death experiences, you know that it is quite an exquisite, very, very beautiful process on the other side. However, it is true that the actual process of transitioning could be awkward, and it is specifically because we don't know anything about this process. So, for example, we have a belief system that, in general, normally you grow old, you have to have some sort of an illness or another so that your body can get tired and then can be rejected so you can transition. Well, that's a very unconscious but extremely common belief system. And in this case, then you have accumulated a lot of a negative energy within your cells, and now you're having to shed your body in order to transition. You see, you're making the transition much harder on yourself. And so that is the reason why you have to really examine your perception of what this process is and make sure that your belief system around it is really, really aligned with the bigger picture, not something that you have inherited from the collective consciousness here on the earth.